All right, welcome to the channel. Welcome to part three of part three and final part three of building this rotisserie out of scrap metal pieces, stuff I got left around. I did have to buy a few pieces of metal because I just didn't have enough sheet pieces, and in all, I spent probably $5 in metal and a couple dollars in a few other hardware parts. Find a good metal supplier, and they will have pre-cut pieces and offcuts and things like that, usually around $1 a pound, give or take. But overall, mostly with what I had on hand. And I apologize for some of the points where I pick up the camera and I move around. The stabilization likes to turn itself off on this camera, and this is a GoPro thing. I'd like to make it a GoPro, but it is what it is, and it's going to have to do for now. And I apologize for some of you'll probably hear some construction noise, and that's because that direction used to be this nice, massive, huge open field where they'd cut hay and really nice, but now it is hundreds and hundreds of houses going in over there. So you know how it is. You can't complain about it because you didn't buy it, you don't own it, so you have no control over it. So it is what it is. And I will do a quick, really quick wrap up and show some details on why I did what I did, just for people that don't want to watch the construction of it, just to show it actually being how I did it. And yeah, just a snippet. It does work very well, and in fact, balanced out pretty nice. Yeah, one finger. That's all it takes. So we'll get back to the construction of it, and the next video will be just an overview of the whole thing. All right, so now, as we saw in my previous video, I have these at both ends that I'm going to basically spin the car off of. Okay, well, this would hold it over here. It does. I picked it up by hand. Yeah, it holds it, but I wouldn't trust that. So what I'm going to do is basically take a piece of pipe that I found that I had lying around from previous owners. Take a piece of this pipe, and I'm going to run it over top of this. Okay, so I run that pipe over there. Okay, I'll run that, and I'll actually machine this out a little bit on the inside of this, so it'll slide down a little further. I have already done this on the other side, so it's not just coming out of thin air at this point. But what I will do is take a piece of square tubing, curve those ends, butt that into here, and I'm going to come over here and put some flat pieces on here, and I will make another leg off of there. And that will be my pivoting piece. So basically we have a piece here, and we'll pivot back and forth. Here, if I turn it this way, there you go. Imagine that is like that, and we have another leg coming off that way. That'll be on a pivot here, and that will be our pivot. So way I can adjust the height of the whole thing. So let me get to doing that. All right, so, well, in my case, since I'm going to be mounting this to here, that's 2-inch tubing. I want this to be a little bit longer than that, so I will just make it a little bit longer than that. My high-tech measuring. Now, if I had a screwdriver, which I have now. Now, I don't have a chop saw here to cut this nice and square. So what I do is I will take just a hose clamp, slide a hose clamp on here, run that up to my line, kind of pull it up. Now you could get really high-tech and actually measure this and make sure that it's perfectly even. I'm not that worried. So all I'll do is do that. Now I've got something to run either a sawzall or cut-off wheel, whatever you want to use, just to cut that off. All right, well, I don't know if you can see this on camera or not. This pipe is not really round. It's kind of round up here, has a flat spot over here, and that's why it doesn't fit on here. So take my little die grinder, flatten that out until that thing fits around there. All right, well, I got that fitting on here now. My next step is going to be taking a piece of square tubing, which is going to be, let me get another, not that you care if you see me or not. But anyway, my legs are going to be 57 inches long. That's an arbitrary number that comes from the fact that the two pieces I had were about 57 inches long, so that's what they're going to be. Because when I'm done with this rotisserie, I'm going to take it apart, I'm going to cut it up, and I want the pieces as long as possible for use on some other project. So no sense in, you know, wasting steel. So I've got this piece over here, which is kind of weird, and I'm going to cut two pieces that are 57, and then I will cut a curve into it to match one of these into there. So let me go cut that and we'll be back. All right, well, down at this end, so I could do this with a hole saw and the drill press if the belts weren't torn up for the drill press, but this is easy enough to do. I'll just set it on here, about yay. Draw a curve about yay, cut that out, and then I'll do the same thing down there. And that'll give me a nice little cradle for that to weld into. All right, well, I've got this welded to here, such as it is. I didn't clean this off really well, so it didn't weld up near, you know, nice and pretty like the other side, but it'll work. So now I've got, still have a mask on. I don't like breathing in that grinding dust. But this is going to act as my other leg. It's going to go over here. Now, I'm going to take a couple straps. Now I've drilled an 1/8 inch hole in both of these, and this is in my template. So the way I will line this up is just by sticking, yeah, that didn't go as easily as it should. But by sticking a just a pop rivet somehow into there. Oh, jeez. Let me get a hammer. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and I'm just going to set that onto there, put that on here. Do the same with the other side, and I mark these because I want to do them the same orientation. Now that would fit better. So now I'm going to slide this out, line it up with the other one, or not. Just line it up like that, and about there, and then a clamp. Okay, so now I can move this around, get my hammer back. Now what this allows me to do is, and I now have a way to have holes all the way through, and I can make sure this moves nice and easy, doesn't interfere with this. And then I can drill these two out, and oh, I'll show you that later. But anyway, that just means that, see, look at that. Okay, yeah, it'll move nice and easy. I can go ahead and weld this, and I know these are going to line up as pretty much a hole all the way through. Well, we'll see if that works or not. Okay, so now you see I've got that welded on there, and those welds look a lot better than the ones I did previously, because I actually cleaned it off a lot better. So yeah, next step, I'll flip it over, do the other side, and then I'll attach my leg. Okay, well, at this point, I got legs. It's bolted together, and it does pivot. And then this piece, this little guy, slides right in there. And I'm going to drill a couple of holes here and here to put some set screws in it, essentially, to lock against the aluminum. This will be a little canted, but who cares? Nothing. Everything's going to move and flex on this thing as the car moves. So really, it's not that big a deal. But as you can see, there you go. That's simple. No big deal. Let's go put it on the car. All right, well, at this point, it's a day or two later because I'm just working on this a little bit here and there. Legs are somewhat on the car. They're not totally finished, but they're on the car, and I'll give you a little look around, explain what's going on at this point. So I did come back and actually shim this because this is tapered. That's a straight hole in there. It was doing some funny things that I didn't like. Had it been a vertical post, it would have been okay. But being that it's on an angle, it did some stuff I didn't like. I don't have my disc in here yet for my pin lock thing. I'll worry about that later. But as you can see right now, basically, you got two legs splayed out. And I've got one of these very expensive these days pieces of timber, which I actually have some of them. I bought, you know, in the before days. So basically down here, that will be fastened on both ends, and they will come in and put an angled brace here and an angled brace down there as well. So you can see all the way down here, and the rear one is on here as well. And I did the same thing. I shimmed that one as well. The only thing I will say that I'm not a fan of, and I've seen everybody else will do this where they mount it like this to here. I'm not liking that right now. And the reason I say that is that there is a lot more flex this way than I like. So I may actually come back and put a brace from here through the hole and down to something in there. I'm not sure because this has got more movement this way because it's got more movement this way than I really like. And you're going to say, well, why didn't you just come vertical? Well, I want to leave these legs as long as I can for what I need because this is just temporary. So I wanted to have my bases way out here so I have a lot of stability. I can do this. I get my cross bracing. I'll get my racking resistance for this direction. And like I said, when I'm done with this, all of this metal is going to be reused for something else. So the longer the piece of steel is, the better. And steel, like everything else, has... You know, this stuff is tripled in price, at least tripled in price from what it was before. So I don't want to waste it anymore. I have to. And then you're going to ask, well, why don't I make some feet for it? Why? Put it on a piece of plywood. It's going to work fine. It'll do what I need. If I wanted to put feet, I put two little tabs, put a little floating foot on there, or run a piece all the way across here to here, and you could put casters on it, but I don't need to move it. So why do I need to go through that expense and hassle of doing it when I'm just going to flip it over, sandblast it, weld some stuff, paint it, sound deaden it, roll it back over, set it back down on the ground. All right, well, I've been doing a little work off camera. And you guys have seen cutting and welding, and everybody does that. So I have added on the side over here, I've added a angle brace. And no, yeah, that's not 45, but that's because that was a scrap piece. It was already cut. I put it into place. This is all coming apart when I get done. So there's my long timber of the lumber that I bought back before things went nuts. So, you know, we got that over here. So we got triangulation braces, and it will clear the car. I've already picked it up and, you know, made sure. For the adjustment here at the back on both legs, actually front and back, initially I was just going to take a square tubing, put a hole in it, and just put it here, and then come over here and just put a couple holes in it. But I didn't. I was one piece short. So I've got a bar, another one of these nuts, that rod, you know, a pipe welded onto there. Yeah, it looks awesome and pretty, doesn't it? But it gets the job done. So now we're up here, and I left my piece behind. Hang on a second. Okay, I found it. Now this is a wedge that for a lining pan, you know, lining sheet that you know, if you know anything about heavy steel, you know what a wedge is for. But anyway, this is one I sacrificed for something else. So now I've got that pulley. I've cut half of the pulley off because it would interfere. So now I'm going to take this little guy and I'm going to weld this guy onto here, drill a hole here, and then drill through it into this at positions where I want to lock the car into place, and just use a pin or a bolt. I don't know, probably a piece of spaghetti or something. I don't know, you know. It's all high-tech stuff, so, you know, spaghetti's probably strong enough. So I'm going to get that welded on, and I'm going to go ahead and drill one hole at this level part, and I'm going to go ahead and lift it up and show you how easy this thing moves. Yes, you guys missed the initial just, you know, jockeying back and forth because the better half wanted to see it when it was done. So, yeah, I just didn't want to film anything, and she doesn't want to be on film, so you know how that goes. Okay, well, I've got my little plate welded on here, and I have a 3/8 bolt from a box or a large pile of stuff I bought that was made back in the 1950s. No idea what grade it is. I have no idea. I've had these forever and ever. So it's just a pin that goes through. And when I get it to a spot where I want to have it, I will just take my big long drill bit, drill another hole in here, and I'll have another stop. It'll probably be at like 90 degrees, but we'll see. So, yeah, let me lift this up and I'll show it bouncing around on its bearings. All right, well, to get this lifted up, all I'm going to do is crank on this here and tighten this up. Now, I will have to lift this up in order for the leg to come in because I couldn't be bothered to put wheels on it. And there we go. We're floating. And I can move this one finger. I mean, that easy. So my next step is, if I'm in picture, my next step is I'm going to balance this, take the jack stands out, take all my other garbage out, get it balanced, and then I'll be able to flip it over, which will be in the next video.